phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
With the start of the 2023 college football season being officially less than a month away, we are getting closer and closer to the start of the season for week 0, and all the talk that we've heard all offseason about who's going to win the conference, who's going to be in the playoff, who's going to be in the national title game, is all going to be found out soon during the 23 year. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a team from each Power 5 conference. And I'm going to be talking about my sleeper team from each said conference in today's video. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first team I'm going to be talking about in today's video is coming from the Pac-12 conference, and it's none other than Oregon State. Oregon State is coming off a very strong 22 campaign, in which, in my opinion, they were one of the more underrated teams in the nation and one of the more underrated teams in the entirety of the Pac-12. They went 10-3, had a very stout defense, and had an offense that wasn't necessarily that bad, even though quarterback play wasn't necessarily a strong suit for the said team. The Pac-12, to me, this season is very interesting. It's something that everyone needs to keep their eyes on. As honestly, there's a lot of good teams in this conference, and it's really all you have to say about it is there's a lot of great quarterbacks. When you have a league full of great quarterbacks, there's going to be great competition, and the Pac-12 is going to be highly competitive for the conference title spots and even a conference title itself. And I think Oregon State is a true sleeper team heading into 2023. They return a good amount of production from that 22 squad, and not only that, you know how I said the quarterback position was not a strong suit for them last year? You can have your thoughts about DJ Uiagalelei, but this quarterback, DJ, is going to be a huge upgrade over who they had in 2022. And knowing how stout of a defense they had in 22 and how likely it's going to be stout in 23, one of the better ones in the Pac-12 in general, along with good trench play on both sides of the ball, Oregon State has a chance to be a real threat in the Pac-12 in 2023. I understand there's a lot of great teams like USC, Washington, and Oregon, just to name a few, along with Utah. Can't forget them. But Oregon State can definitely make a run if they play like they did last season and have the better quarterback play like I expect. Moving on to the next conference, I'm going to be taking a look at the SEC and talking about Ole Miss. Ole Miss, in my opinion, is coming off what you can argue a disappointing season in 2022. I think more was expected as they brought in a great portal class. They were coming off a strong 21 season, and they went 8-5, and their bowl game versus Texas Tech was not very pretty. However, I think in 23, they bounce back and can be a real sleeper team in the SEC. Am I projecting them to win? No. By no means am I doing that, but I do think them returning Jackson Dart to have another year as a starting quarterback and having some good competitive depth behind him, bringing in yet again another transfer portal class and bringing in the second most returning production starter-wise in the SEC could be a very good recipe for a bounce-back year for Ole Miss, a team that could very well be in contention for an SEC title spot. And who knows, with college football, things can always be unpredictable with injuries, players breaking out. Maybe they can shock some people and win the SEC. That's not my pick for them. I think they're going to bounce back, potentially be a 10-win team, but it's yet to be seen as the season is fast approaching. Looking at the ACC, the team that I have as a sleeper for 2023 is Duke. Duke is coming off a very impressive 22 campaign in which they shocked a lot of people in the first year in the Mike Elko era as they went 9-4, winning a bowl game versus UCF and making a bowl game for the first time since 2018. And they have a very underrated quarterback, one that needs to be talked about a lot more in Riley Leonard, that threw for almost 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns compared to only 6 interceptions, while also being the leading rusher on the team with 699 rushing yards and 13 total touchdowns on the ground. This could be a very surprising year yet again for Duke in 2023. This is a team that had a lot of success in the ACC last year. They finished 9-4. They won their bowl game. They were good on defense, and they were highly proficient on offense. They could build upon that year, especially with how much returning production they have. Not only one of the highest in the ACC, but some of the highest in all of FBS Division I football. they could surprise some people and be a top team in the ACC in 2023 and be a threat to some of those teams that people have as locks to the conference titles or locks to be a team that could potentially go to the playoffs or win the ACC itself. As this team, they have that returning production, are coming off a great year, and have a great quarterback in Riley Leonard that could improve his game even more and take an even bigger step than he already has as a player from 2021 to 2022 and build it all the way to this current 2023 year. The Big Ten, a team that I feel like everyone needs to keep their eye out for, is Penn State. I know Penn State is expected to be a top 25 team and stay in the top 25 the entirety of the season, but nobody is really putting them in the Big Ten title game. We're not very many at that point. You expect your Ohio State to potentially win the conference, and the big favorite to win it all in that Big Ten conference is, of course, Michigan. Those two teams are going to be teams that Penn State plays this season. But I believe Penn State, they're going to be very promising in 2023. I think in 2022, they had a great year. Of course they did. They won the Rose Bowl versus Utah. They went 11-2 and finished 7th in the final AP poll, and overall had a very good year with some young talent emerging on both sides of the ball. But here's why I think everyone needs to pay attention to Penn State in 2023. You know how I brought up that young talent showing up in 2022? Well, those guys are back for another season, and they're returning the most returning production in the entirety of the Big Ten Conference from 2022 to 2023. I understand that, yes, they're losing their starting quarterback, their longtime starting quarterback in Sean Clifford. However, they also got a young starting quarterback coming in Drew Aller, that everyone's hyping up and everyone sees a lot of potential in. And if he's truly what everyone says he is, Penn State's going to be nasty not only this season but years to come, because the expectations are through the roof for Drew Aller, and I also am kind of buying those expectations as I think he can be a very good quarterback in 2023. Also, they could potentially have one of the best running backs in 23 as well, in Nicholas Singleton, who's going to be going in year 2 of his collegiate career. On to the last Power 5 conference I have for today's video is the Big 12. And I'm going to be talking about Texas Tech. Now, some may say, how is this a sleeper team if everyone's saying this is a sleeper team for their picks going into the Big 12 23 season? And my response to that is, well, they are a sleeper team to win the conference, and they're my sleeper team. I've been hyping up Texas Tech and been on the Texas Tech hype train, honestly, long before a lot of people have been on the train themselves. I've been talking about Texas Tech and how 2023 could be a very good season for them, honestly, since before last season even ended, but that's beside the point. Let's talk about why I think Texas Tech could really take a jump into 2023. They're coming off a good 22 year in which they went 8-5 and honestly looked like a pretty good team on both sides of the ball at some parts of the season, and it's a very promising start to the Joey McGuire era. Texas Tech is returning some of the higher returning production from 22 to 23 in the Big 12 Conference. And usually for most college football coaches, year 2 is usually better than year 1. And Joey McGuire had a promising year 1 in 22. And I'm expecting them to elevate even more in 2023. I think the Big 12 is going to be a tough conference all around for many teams out there for the 2023 collegiate year for football. But I think Texas Tech is going to have a great season, especially if they can stay healthy at the quarterback position. Say what you can about Tyler Shuck, but when he is healthy, Texas Tech, they rarely lose any games. And this Texas Tech team seems like they have a lot of promise heading into 2023. I'm definitely expecting them to be a contender in the Big 12. And if everything goes right, they could shock many people, be in that conference game, and possibly even win it. Well, guys, if you made this far in today's video, drop something down in the comment section below. Who are your sleeper teams for the 2023 year for the Power 5 conferences? And before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.